Welcome to Otis Frampton Live. Hold on one second. Turn something off real quick. It's just too bright in here with that. All right. Sorry for that delay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new week. Hope you're having a good time. I had a very good weekend. Got a lot done. And today I'm getting issue 4 of Patchwork Vase all set and sent to the printer. So that's good news. Sorry. Just a reminder, issue 1. I'm sorry, issue 1. Wow. You know, when you're making a comic series, things just sort of blend. Issue 3 of Patchwork Vase is in stores now. And you can get it wherever Image comics are sold. There we go. That's about it. I'm sorry, I'm a little off right now. So today we're going to continue working on this cover, which did I ink any of it on the stream last week? I can't remember, honestly. And it's, you know, again, when you're working on a comic series, you like jump back and forth between things. I'm inking and coloring the covered issue 6. Putting issue 4 to bed for print. I'm working on issue 5's pencils and inks. When you do your own comic series, you know, even with people might not know this, but with Image, you're pretty much in charge of everything with regard to production of your comic. Being a project manager is one of those skills. Turn this off. One of those skills that you need to have. All right, I'm gonna go in here and add a couple of things, and just real quick that I noticed, and then I'm gonna talk about what I've been doing with this since the last time you saw it. I'm gonna add a little bit of lighter color in there. Oh, wait, maybe I should add a darker color. No, a lighter color. So I did a little bit more work on this since I've last worked on it on the live stream. And I'll talk about that more in depth in a second here. But the reason I have to work on this at all is because I need to have it ready for issue 5, the back cover of issue 5, because on the back cover of each issue, I preview the cover for the next one. Not everyone does this, but I like to do it so that, you know, at least people know that more is coming. So I have a nice little next issue image on the back cover. Let me just quick show one for issue 4. There's the back cover. They're each in a little frame I designed here. So this is the back cover of issue 4, previewing issue 5. And I'm working on issue 5 right now, so I have to finish the cover for issue 6. Just fixing a couple of things here, and then I'll talk about the changes that I made. There, just give it a little bit of a difference. Okay. So, when last you saw this, I honestly don't remember. I just had the characters and the sort of the furniture and stuff. But as I was thinking about, how I was thinking about more about the story actually of what happens in this setting once the main characters get there. I just noticed something I gotta fix. And I started thinking about the environment more in terms of story, and I didn't want it to be just another sort of like home or office or kind of thing. And then I was like, well, they're animals, so what would maybe they let the nature just sort of grow around their stuff, and maybe instead of a hardwood floor or something else, it would just be grass on the floor. So I added that. So that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing I basically just drew on top of it and added all this stuff, and I think it gives a little bit more visual interest to the scene. And when I get to the actual environment in the comic, you'll see even more of that. So it'll be fun to draw. It'll give it much more interest. I also added a little dialogue balloon here because it was driving me nuts, like I said in the last one, that there was this like little bit of space here. It just drove me nuts, and it looked like it needed something. So I added a dialogue balloon. I miss dialogue balloons on comic covers. They used to be like the norm in the 60s, 70s, and even the early to mid 80s, but it's kind of gone out of fashion. But I'm bringing it back. All right. So let's see. Now I'm going to start coloring, and I'm going to color the characters first, just to do something fun. I've got my designs to help me guide me as to how I wanted to color these characters. Oops, you need to fix something first. My wife is my flatter, and some of the differences when there's weird color things like this where the color kind of fades off, she doesn't even attempt to do it. She knows I'll come in and fix it, so gotta fix that first. There we go. Okay. Let's get back to work here. Really having a good time working on issue 5 because, like I've said before, it's the quest in the story has finally begun, and the main characters are out into Oz. I was feeling really, I don't know if the word is claustrophobic, but I was feeling sort of trapped in Dr. Pip's house, for those of you who know the story. It's unfortunate that issue 2 and 3 are basically all in that house, because, man, I wanted to get out. Oh, I think she missed a color. I think. That's why it didn't look quite right to me. Yeah, now it looks right. Like, why doesn't it look right? I also altered his changed the design of his teeth. Instead of just regular teeth, I gave him much more donkey-like teeth. The two front teeth thing those donkeys have. But anyway, I'm really enjoying. There's another being out into Oz, getting to draw, forests and waterfalls and cool, foresty environments. How to fix that? Okay. Guy's looking a lot more like the way he should. It's funny, just because I don't spot blacks a lot, my characters don't tend to look exactly the way they should until it gets to the shading part. Because that's where I start to give things form. After I get the characters all shaded, I'm going to go in and color the line art for the background elements. Maybe not the task, I'm not sure yet. I tend to do like what's called what are they called, line holds, where you color the line art itself for the backgrounds on this book. That's the way I've been doing things. Just gives it a nice, like, animated series background look. What just happened here? There we go. I haven't done that on Oddly Normal, my other series, except for a few occasions. But I started this one doing that, and now I can't change it now. No, I like the way it looks, so why would I change it? I also gotta go back and add all the wood texture. I didn't finish that in the inks. Ooh. I don't like that color. Let's find sort of base yellow. So I gotta fix this. When my wife doesn't know what to color something, my policy is just give it some kind of color and I'll fix it later. Let's merge these down. only problem with, I'm going to do that later. That one will be a special. With adding all, the details of like the vines and the flowers and grass and stuff is now that's the way it has to be drawn every single time. I just noticed the difference here. I did that to a background at the end of issue 4. Wow, what's wrong with me? And where was it? And it kind of I was like, why did I do that? Why did I add ivy and vines all up down that wall? But it looks better for it, so it's okay. Go back and do the details on the grass and stuff. That shading a little bit later after I've got the line art colored. Oops. Let's try that again. Here we go. What I'm doing here. Let's rethink this. Where the light is going. There we go. There we go. Tend to think about where the light hits sort of instinctively. Some people paint the light, I paint the shadow. That's just how my brain works. It's like carving out the form. Kind of wish I could see things in terms of light though. One of my favorite artists is just amazing at painting light. He always sort of starts with the shaded version of a color and then finds the local color with the lighting. It's really kind of beautiful. I really can't see that way. I don't know why. The artist's name is Goro Fujita, by the way. Gorofujita. Awesome follow on Instagram. Amazing artist. An animator, too. And I've purchased like classes and done his Patreon before to try to pick his brain, but man, I can't think the way he does. And I think that really hinders me. But he spent a lot of time studying light to get to where he's at. I think that's one of his obsessions. Mine is story, so I can't spend as much time. Softer here. I need to change that. Make this a darker color, otherwise it looks like it's not really there. Yeah, that's better. Time to update your color chart. My flatter. Hey, already starting to see the forums. Everybody's really quiet in the chat room today. Still not sure I'm going to keep the colors for the furniture and stuff. I haven't decided yet. Oh, look at that. I'm just going to undo all the work I just did. Still trying to figure out the colors for those warm colors, very warm colors for the furniture, because the walls in the actual scene are going to be blue, so I want it to stand out. It's the same reason I made all the furniture and stuff, for the most part, in Dr. Pip's house. Warm colors, more natural wood colors. In the book, it's supposed to be, you know, like everything's blue, blue trees, blue, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, it can't all be blue, you know, so I made as much blue as I could and adhered to some of the rules that Baum puts out, but it can't all be one color. It just doesn't work visually. There's got to be some variation. So I chose to have like trees have more natural colors. That way the wood of the furniture will stand out against, whoops, oh, can't have that color there. Will stand out against the blue walls and other blue things. Gotta finish all the inks on some of this stuff too. I kind of just got the inks on this to a certain level so I could give it to my flatter and keep moving forward. Do that sometimes with pages. I'll be like, well, good enough for now. I'm going to count that as done, just so you can cross something off your to-do list. No, I didn't do that. Yesterday I worked all day and got 5 pages penciled, but they still need some work. I did it I needed to get five things done yesterday to catch up, so I'll finish the pencils as I'm inking them. But I've done this enough times that I know I can do that. Sorry, I'm just seeing some things need fixing. I may end up changing the color of these books too, because in the previous issue I changed something from the book and set it a scene in a giant library, and the bookshelves were warm colors, but all the books were various shades of blue, so I might have to change this. My wife was working off of the colors in the sample that I did well before I started working on the comic. Things change as you work on things, you know. that's why that looks wrong. I was looking at something thinking, why does that look wrong to me? She flatted it wrong. That's okay. Comic book flatters have to be sort of mind readers sometimes, and it's not their fault when they can't read the artist's mind. It's a pretty simple cover, but as I always say, there's no such thing as a simple page. You'll find some kind of challenge in everything, something to figure out or fix or work on. Hi Scott, how you doing? Looks like you joined the stream before I quit. See some remnants of previous version where I drew over the line art, forgot to erase. Now I'll handle the shadows on the grass and stuff a little bit later. Oh, look at that, another area. Hold on one second. Gotta fix something. So you can see I already did a little bit of like work on layering in some gradients, giving the grass a little bit of a warm tone up top and sort of darker down below. I gotta make sure that the text here pops. So let's get back to work. So I was saying earlier this morning, I looked over the is that right? The files. I approved all the files for print for issue 4, and it was kind of cool because as I was looking through them, and basically you're just looking at each page. You're doing it's like your last sort of pass on each one, so that the image can send it to the printers, and you're kind of reading it with both an editor's eye and first time reader's eye. It's your last chance to look at it like that, and it can be fun, especially when your schedule is so packed that you almost forgot that you did it. You start. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. So it was nice having a chance to look. Oh, I gotta fix that. Choose a color. No, let's choose this color. And because my schedule is so tight, like this month and last month, it's almost like I'd forgotten it. So it was really looking at it with fresh eyes, and that was really nice. But what was mostly nice was I'd forgotten. I totally couldn't tell which pages my co-colorist had colored and which ones that I had colored. So that's actually really good, because that means that they're blending well. She has a slightly different, her pages have a slightly different look than mine. And then, I'm the art director, so I go in and sort of tweak things and change things to make them look consistent. But I really feel like this last issue, which is only the second issue we've collaborated on for this series, they look really tight in terms of, style of coloring, I should say. So that made me happy, because that's always a concern of mine when working with another colorist. And it's not an ego thing. It's the pages, the story needs to be consistent in terms of the way it looks, and it's my baby, so that's the consistency has to go one way. But she's cool with that. She totally understands. She's really great. Her name is Tracy Bailey. She's my co-colorist. I feel bad though, because she hasn't really tackled. I gave her sporadic pages, and they're so she's working on a page here and a page there from each issue, and she's really great about being like, "Yep, I'll just do this one," and not thinking, "Well, I'd really like to know more about what's going on here." But the book is out there. She can. All right, so let's do the second layer shade. What time is it? Okay, fine. And then I'll do some color holds. Just noticed something. I forgot what I've adjusted the colors. I forgot that. Okay. thank you, Tonmatos Tune on Instagram. Thank you very much. All right. Got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to start. Honestly, I should have done this first, but it is what it is. Make sure that the camera's a little. There we go. All right. Let's show you how I do color holds. I'm gonna turn the shade layers off real quick. I mean, everyone does color holds probably. Oh, this is. Oh shoot. Just really got to make a choice about the books. You know what, I'm going to leave the books multiple colors because these guys are public advisors about like everything on us, so they'll be pulling things from different areas of us, so it all wouldn't be just blue. So you got to think about things like that. Stupid things like that. I got to decide if I want to use these colors. Oh, here we go. So basically lock pixels on the line art, and that way you can color it, and so you just choose the local color, and yeah, there's a process of coloring over it. And then when I get this all colored, I will do a levels adjustment. Well, a brightness adjustment, I should say. Whoops. And then the color will get darker and it'll look like it belongs to whatever is being colored. Boy, this is going to be a fun sequence to color. Lots of stuff to color hold. My poor co-colorist. What have I done to her? But this kind of thing, you know, it really helps to give it a special look, and it helps the characters to pop too, against the background. What I probably will do with the stuff they're touching is, like, I tend to leave black lines for things that like are alive or have life, and so I'll probably leave those with the black lines because they're sort of interacting with it. It's kind of the theory behind that is kind of like when you're watching like a 2D animated TV show or movie, and everything in the background looks painterly, except for that one thing that the character's going to interact with. It looks a little more stylized and flat colored. You can always tell that, like, if you see like a door that doesn't look like the rest of the background, you're like, well, they're going to interact with that door probably. It's the same kind of thing. This is going to take forever. See, here's another example of nothing. There's no such thing as an easy page. I added all these vines and flowers and stuff after I'd already finished inking everything, and now it's just become like one more complication. So I thought it was going to be an easy cover. I was wrong. I should know better by this point. No such thing. I remember there was a sequence in Oddly Normal, my other series, where she goes into a memory fragment, you know, via magic, and it's a void. And I thought, well, that'll make things much easier. Well, it was easier, but it was also like, well, I got to make sure that it looks a little bit, there's some sort of form to it, and so it became a tricky balancing act of how much can I add to the void, so to speak, to make it look like a real place or an actual physical place. So I thought it was going to be really easy. It ended up being easier, but still, still a process. I'm not going to get to finish probably the entire color hold section here because I'm going to be running out of time. But I'll show you, what it looks like after a certain amount. I'm just trying to get like each color taken care of individually at this point, so I don't have to keep switching. Let's do. I'm not gonna do the individual color for the interior of those flowers. They can just be a darker blue. That way I'm not having to really get macro on this, and nobody will notice because they won't even be looking at that. They'll be looking at the eyes of the characters. But it's going to be worth it in the end. And soon I'll be able to call this finished. One more process knocked out for a future issue. So I said I wasn't going to do the things I wasn't going to color hold the furniture they're touching, but I am still going to do color holds on the ivy climbing around it. I do kind of wish I'd done this style of background for Oddly Normal as well, because I like it a lot better than just the black lines. It's time consuming for sure. It's much more labor intensive. I think it looks so much better. It kind of goes to the way I think about my comics anyway, which is I think of them as comic adaptations of an existing animated movie. That's kind of the way I think about them while I'm working on them. So it just adds to that. Yeah, this is going to help the foreground characters pop. Speaking of Oddly Normal, I'm working with a producer who is optioned the material for development as an animated series, and having to dig through old artwork to provide things to build up this pitch package we're creating, and man, it's painful seeing old work like that. Especially when you're still, you're moving forward with other projects, or even later issues or chapters of Oddly Normal are better looking. It's just really painful having to look at old material like that. The urge to fix it all sets in. She's like, well, if you want to do that, you can do that if you want. Like, if I pull out that thread, the whole thing's gonna unravel. Meadows Tune on Instagram asks, how many layers do you use for the line art? That's a good question, actually, because I do use multiple layers for line art, depending on where it is in the scene, so to speak. But character art is always on line art is always on its own layer. Then there's background line art, because I keep things very separate. And depending on what's in the scene, you have foreground, midground, far background, very far background, that kind of thing. I would say normally 3 to 6 layers of line art, and it's all set up in folders with each of their components. So there's a folder for character art, a folder for background art. This is actually a rare example of all the line art being on one, because I didn't really feel like I needed to do much to separate things between the characters and the backgrounds, especially since they're sort of all part of one thing. So I didn't separate it out on this. I may regret that when I think ahead to something that I want to do with this, but live and learn. I mean, I could go out and separate it out, with selections and things like that, but it would take probably more time to do that than just work around the fact that I put it all in one layer. And on the rare occasion that I'm coloring something that I've actually inked traditionally and then scanned in, I will get that scan, and I will there's a process that I use to knock out the white so that only the lines are on the layer. That way I can work with the line art itself, and then I'll go in and I'll separate out components of that line art, foreground, background, character, that kind of thing. So I like to keep things organized, because you never know when you're going to want to change things. Again, this cover is an exception, because it didn't present areas where I thought that I was going to need to change things for the background. But like I said, I might regret that. Let's get close. Just gonna color a few things here, and then I'll show you how this is gonna work. There are ways to sort of fake this look, like if you can, depending on what's happening with the rest of the image. Like if you're going for sort of a monochromatic kind of thing, you can have the line art be all one color, and just have it softened a bit. That works sometimes. I've done that sometimes, but for the most part, I like to color each thing as their local color, their component, or original component color, so that when I darken it, it looks right against the flats. And I'll show you that in 1 second. The trick is to get it the right darkness, so that everything is still sort of legible in terms of separating things out with your eye, but not looking so dark that it's just looks like black again. Alright, we're coming up on 3 o'clock, so I'm just gonna take this, and we'll just take this section here to show. Get rid of this. So when I get done, coloring all the line art for the background stuff, the background bookshelves, and the grass, and the vines, what I'll do is I'll go up here and do a hue saturation, and then I'll bring it down. Probably to about. Well, actually, let me do something first. Let's bring up the shading, because I would usually do this while witnessing the shade, so that I can gauge it against that. There we go. So this is already shaded. I'll go up to hue brightness, darken it to about there. I might do a saturation adjust, desaturate the line art just a bit, so it doesn't look. It looks a little too saturated here. Sometimes you gotta do that, but I mean, you can already see that it definitely makes it a little subdued. Like when the black line art is in front of it, it really helps the black line art pop. But I'm gonna take that back to there so that I can keep working on that. Oh, maybe not. There we go. All right. So that's hold on. Looks like I got a couple questions that I'll tackle before I sign off here. Which brush do you use for your shade? I appreciate the question, but the question is, I'm telling you, it's not a helpful question. I know the urge to ask what brush do you use, but ultimately you got to find what works for you, because you gotta try different brushes, do trial and error. The brush that I'm using here to shade, it's a brush I got from another artist who had designed it, and I altered it to fit my needs, given it a little bit more grit. So it's not even a brush that really you can find out there, because I've changed it. But I get it. I get the urge to ask, what brush do you use for this? What brush do you use for that? I've asked it before too, but you gotta really find what works for you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve with your art. It's the brushes aren't the answer, because amazing artists can do amazing things with just a solid round brush. I can't do that. I'm not that good. But yeah. But yeah, Ink on Instagram, I do appreciate the question, because I do like reiterating my sort of philosophy about brushes every once in a while, to remind people to seek out what works best for them, and don't get in the mindset of looking for brushes to solve problems. Does that make sense? I hope so. Thank you so much for the question, Ink. And then let's see, Ton Metos Tune says, your work is amazing. Thank you very much. I don't feel safe to choose the color palette. It's something that always makes me stress. It's always a trial and error for me too. I tend to work from. I started getting the buying these brush packs of from Frampton, brushes, just to try things out, because you do need to test things. But they have this great selection of color palettes they've created, and I find that they're really great to choose from. Then sometimes I've made my own. Like I went in and studied some Studio Ghibli background art and chose some colors. I call it anime tree, because these are some colors that work really well for trees. Same thing here. These are some good Studio Ghibli palettes. But in terms of color, you just gotta find what works again for you. But my advice for that is, if you're having a problem finding a color palette that feels like it gels, go in and add a layer and set to color mode. You can see that there, color mode. You can do this in any digital art package. They're the same kind of thing. And then throw on a color. I can show you what it'll do here with this. Say I want this to be like an angry, or I want this to be a much warmer image. So I've got the layer there, set to color mode. I throw a color in there, and if I bring it down just a little, you can see, well, it actually does kind of, it might, and there, if you get it to a certain level, it'll every other color below it will sort of gel and be affected by that what I call a mother color. Sometimes you can do it strong, sometimes you can do it subtly, so that there's a slight change, but it helps to unify all the colors below that one single color. I think I made up the term mother color for my own purposes. I don't think I ever heard that before I started using it that way. It's called different things, but I always call it the mother color. In fact, for my adjustments, I always have a layer there set up to use as a mother color. You can see it right there. But yeah, and I'll show you before I take off here. So let me just increase it a little bit. So that's with it off. Those are just the base, the local colors you can see. Then when you throw the mother color on, you can really see it change, and it changes everything, and it unifies them. And turn the opacity down. Actually, kind of like that. Actually, it warms it up without sacrificing the blue too much. And sometimes, for the most part, I usually, even on scenes that don't really require a strong mother color, I'll have something set to maybe like 5% just to unify it for the scene. And then and then I'll go in and I'll do a saturation adjustment, like maybe increase saturation 5% to bring out the natural colors again, but bring them out together after they've been affected by the mother color, so that they're unified. Then when you bring the saturation back up, saturation isn't enhancing all of the individual colors on their own, if that makes sense. All right. That's it. I think that's the only questions I got. Thank you all so much for the questions. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm probably going to be inking a new page of Patchwork Gorilla Vase, or a page you guys have seen before probably. In the meantime, don't forget, issue 3 of the Patchwork Gorilla Vase is out in stores now, sold wherever Image comics are sold, and digitally on Kindle/Comixology. It looks just like this. And if you've been reading the series, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff on Instagram, X, YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook, the 5 places I stream to. And I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central. See ya.